What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fresh Podcast, where we bring everything fresh and entertainment. I am your host, Drew Brophy, and join with me are my two very close friends. First up, we got Seth. Seth, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Gotcha. And then Robert. Robert, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I haven't talked to you in 7 months?
It has been a good minute since we've done an actual episode. We've kind of just... I've just kind of been throwing up random clips on there, months in between and stuff. But yes, this will be our first podcast back in 7 months. But we are returning for a very special new movie, because it's the dawn of the Fresh Podcast new chapter, but it's also the dawn of the new DC Cinematic Universe chapter with Superman, the kind of brand new restart to this universe. James Gunn's kind of opening glory shot with this movie, and we're gonna sit here, tell you, is it better, worse than the previous movies? Is it as good as people say, or is it not as super as everyone thinks? Spoiler alert, I think we all kind of like this movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think he kind of cooked.
Yeah, it was quite good, and it kind of, I'll get more into it later, but it's wild to me of watching this movie. I had a realization halfway through. I was like, oh wow, I really hated pretty much everything Zack Snyder did with DC. I was like, wow, yeah, I like every single one of those movies much less now, and I really didn't like them at all before this, but I watched it, I was like, wow, they really fumbled, because if this was the possibility, and then thinking about what was actually delivered was crazy. Yeah. Seth, what was your kind of just general thoughts of the movie without getting into spoilers?
Yeah, I think I will echo a thought that's pretty prevalent across, I think, the internet right now. This is the best Superman movie, which is also, like the internet says, not really saying a lot. I think the only thing really comparable is probably the Donner Superman from the 70s. And I haven't seen that movie personally. I mean, I might have, I don't remember, or that might have been Superman 2 because the clips are weird. Anyways, I feel like this is a Superman for a new generation. And I think it's really good at capturing the essence of what makes Superman so special. Mm-hmm. And why this character, who has been in syndication since I think the 30s, is still so impactful for audiences. Just quickly, I'll just say that I feel like over the years we've kind of had a bit of a struggle to figure out how do we make and keep Superman interesting as stories, and particularly the superhero genre has evolved. One thing that struck me about this film is that it feels almost like a answer to a post-Invincible world, that I'll get into that a little bit later, where more audiences are now exposed to that comic book series and kind of how it approaches the super powered person coming from outside our world and how it impacts the way our world goes. So I think this movie is great. In general, I think it's the best superhero film I've seen this year. It's not really a contest to me.
How many superhero movies have we gotten this year?
Fantastic
Four just came out.
Yeah, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and
Thunderbolts,
and Captain America: Brave New World. So there's 4 superhero movies that are out, and 3 of the 4 of them, I will say, are quite good.
I didn't watch the Brave New World.
That is the one.
I honestly forgot about that one.
It's honestly, real quick, it's not that bad. But it's only fine. So it's really not really worth your time unless you're I'm a diehard new Captain America fan, or I'm a diehard Red Hulk fan. But literally the other 3 that came out in Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and this, all great movies. All really solid fucking superhero movies. So I would say, yeah, definitely worth seeing all of them. But specifically about Superman, Robert, what were you saying about your kind of general thoughts about this?
Overall, I really liked it. I could say I honestly don't remember much about the Zack Snyder movies. I didn't watch Man of Steel. I remember like nothing of Batman versus Superman, and I think I got like an hour into Justice League, and then I got bored and stopped watching it. So,
Probably the best way to watch a
I,
lot of those movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
just from what I understand, a lot of those movies try to have like a lot darker or like anti-hero kind of take on Superman. Is that wrong to say?
No.
Not
'Cause
really.
Yeah. 'Cause
Also,
I feel
you
like going
say
back into like,
it's darker themes. Really, the themes aren't even that dark comparatively. A lot of things. It's just shot and people treat it darker than it actually is. But that's a different thing. That I'll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole different like conversation. But I do agree. Yeah, like I think we've kind of struggled to make Superman interesting. Like I said earlier, like we've had Injustice Superman, which is like, what if Superman but evil? And it's just like, is this really the best? And I remember, and I used to think too when I was younger. I like as an idiot, I used to think like, oh yeah, that is probably the way to make someone like Superman with his power set more interesting is like make him a villain. But like the truth is, no, that doesn't really help. And I would say, and I'm not trying to like disparage the Injustice storylines. I think those are good for the medium that they're working in, which is a video game and a comic book run. I'm like, those work great. But I think what a lot of moviegoers want right now is they want I'm trying to figure out, I almost want to say classic Superman, but I don't think that's quite right. I think people want a Superman and what he represents that is indicative of our times. And I think like if you ever look at like Superman's history, he's always kind of spoken. It's always been like a character that has spoken out about the ills of the times. I mean, you know, there were runs of Superman in like the 50s and such where his some of his main antagonists were the KKK. In no short terms, Superman was just outright like he's against racism, and he was deliberately fighting that. And I think we'll talk about it in the film, but like he's kind of supposed to be this catalyst of moral change and like, hey, we can't just stand by and let this shit happen. This is evil. And so having him like, it's not so much about waiting, like the song waiting for Superman to come save us. It's more about using Superman as an inspiration to instigate change.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
but kind of going back to what I was trying to say, like with the movie, is that it feels like what some of these like movie directors like Zack Snyder are trying to do to make him interesting is to make him like darker, but you don't necessarily need to make Superman an anti-hero to make him interesting, because that's something that I feel like this movie really gets with Superman, is that he wants to do good, he wants to do what's right, but he still has flaws, and he's still human like the rest of us. So I think people want a Superman they can kind of relate to in a way, and I think that this version of Superman kind of does that well. It's like he wants to do what he feels is right. He has a good moral compass, but sometimes that can kind of get the best of him, and he makes mistakes and handles situations in ways that weren't exactly the right answer, but it was what he felt like he needed to do.
Yeah, I feel like ever since there was the Injustice Superman, which I will also argue, I like that story, and I think that is an interesting story of what happens when the best among you are corrupted or like go that. But the problem is with that, you had that, and that's like the only story we've had, and have just been running with that with Injustice, and then The Boys, and then Invincible, and pretty much Zack Snyder's version of. We kind of got stuck with that version of Superman for so long with this like god complex that a lot of modern audience forgot like this is the parody world. This is the opposite world of this isn't what he's supposed to be. And I think like we kind of got stuck in like the limbo world for too long. And this is the first instance where it's like this is way more true to his proper character. Fun fact, Superman was originally created by Jewish immigrants, which is another big reason he's against the Klan, and also because they're evil. But yeah, it's it's kind of
All good
bringing him,
reasons.
bringing him back to like what it's supposed to be, and the reason that he is interesting, that you can even put Superman in a quote unquote dark world or have dark themes around him, but that's kind of the interesting thing about him, is that he stays positive and stays looking for the good in people and like, you know, truth, justice, and all that, even in a world that is like mean and cruel to him. The fact that his character doesn't change is what makes him interesting.
Yeah, it's like I feel like what some of these writers are thinking is that everybody knows who Superman is and what like he stands for. So they think, oh, let's try to change it up a little bit so people see something different. But I think they kind of miss the point when they do that sometimes.
Yeah, it's
'Cause like you said, people kind of went into the parody more than, you know, who he actually is.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I will say, and this is like such a deep, crazy internet thing. I don't expect you guys to know this video, but it got millions of views back in like when it came out, which was 2012, which is crazy. And I attribute this as, to me, the video that ruined Superman for me. So the director of Chronicle, or he would go, Chronicle had already come out at this time. Director of Chronicle, Max Landis, had, by the way, not a good dude. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Anyway, Max Landis, after Chronicle had came out, he had made some YouTube videos. One of them was a very long, very skit-filled, like essay about the death of Superman comic book. And one of the things that always stuck out with me is like, he almost says it as a fact of like, no one thinks Superman is interesting. He was just the first superhero, so all his powers are very basic. He's very overpowered. No one thinks Superman is interesting. And a lot of that video, with a lot of really in poor taste, bad jokes, just kind of like deconstructs Superman. And I think whenever I watched that when I was really young, it gave me the impression of like, oh, I saw this thing and it means Superman is like, it's not till I've gotten on, as I gotten older and I've seen more really Superman fans talk out and speak about why Superman means so much to me, is when I started to realize, okay, I think I get it now. And I think the thing is, I think everyone needs that medium to be like, this is my Superman. I feel like in the 70s, people got the Richard Donner Superman, the live action movie with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
I think for some of us kids, like in like the 90s and early 2000s, we had the Superman animated series, and we also had Justice League Unlimited. Like that was their Superman.
Yeah.
That was probably the closest to mine, and I didn't really watch those shows religiously. So I definitely feel like I finally have a Superman that I feel like is my own. It's like, this is one that I really want to like take ownership of, because it's just like, it's the one that speaks to me more and to my generation.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, like to the more modern audience, I will always say this: I think Henry Cavill could have been a good Superman. I think could have been a great Superman. He has the look. He's definitely a very good actor. It's just unfortunate that his version, or like the kind of material he was given, he never really got the opportunity to do that. Like in his film, someone pointed this out to me of like, Superman is not Batman, and because Batman's a cop. And Batman works at the police. He's a detective. He finds and punishes criminals. That's not what Superman's a firefighter. And every single Superman comic revolves around him saving someone, getting a cat out of a burning building, you know, jumping in the way of like a train, picking someone up as like a thing's about to fall and moving them. Like, that's what Superman's character is. Like, on the whole, he's a firefighter. His job is to save people, not to punish the bad guy. That's Batman. And Henry Cavill's Superman never got the chance to really save anyone. His whole, like, Zack Snyder really just wanted Batman with superpowers, and that's kind of the one we got. And even you can see it if you go like to like the Man of Steel versions of just like, when he fights, he doesn't really care about, and a lot of people have been pointing this out, like when the movie came out, it's like he doesn't really care about all the buildings he's breaking and the people he's probably crushed, like by throwing a car at like a villain. It's like, that's not really people don't find Superman interesting because he can punch a thing good or throw a car well. And so I think Henry Cavill could have been a really good version of Superman, but he just never got the chance to do Superman type things.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you a lot on that. I think another common sentiment on the internet, and I 100% agree, is Henry Cavill in interviews is more like Superman than his actual portrayal of the character in the movies.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he not have a lot of speaking lines in some of those movies either?
There's some sort of stat where like they say like he only had maybe in total the whole series, his run as Superman, is he maybe had like 30 lines of dialogue throughout everything. This is counting for Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Justice League, all the cameos. Like, I don't know how accurate that is, but it sounds about right, unfortunately.
Because you get to hear like this version of Superman. I forget the actor's name.
So you're very close. It's 42. It's 42 lines. That's insane for 4 movies, one of which he's the main character, and the other one he's the secondary main character.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up.
And I mean, and it's just like I think, I think we could definitely start into the movie, but I think it's where Gunn. I think that's what the primary difference is, that I think Gunn excels is. I'm not here to say Zack Snyder is an awful director or anything, but like I will say that like I think Gunn gets Superman in a way where it feels like Snyder was more fascinated about the powers aspect of Superman, where Gunn is more fascinated with the man part about Superman, about humanizing this person, where it's a story not about it's a story not about a man with exceptional powers. The story's not about his powers. The story is about a man with exceptional powers who values his humanity and what good he can bring to this world versus anything else.
Also, I do want to clarify. I'm looking it up now. That's 42 is inaccurate. That is 42 with Batman vs Superman and Justice League. In Man of Steel, he has 103 lines because he is the main character.
Okay.
That's 42.
That was a low number that was being thrown around. I thought it was like
but 42 is for Man of Steel and Justice, or the original Justice League, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is still not a lot for being the main character of that one. Because you went from 103, and to be fair, like, you're sharing the spotlight now with someone else, but like all the way down to 42 is kind of crazy. Anyway, I wanted to clarify that because I looked 2 seconds longer. I was like, wait a minute, that's not accurate.
At least you're getting like the facts straight, so we appreciate that.
Yes.
Oh my god, yeah. But that does remind me that whenever we did do the fucking Zack Snyder Justice League cut, which was like 4 hours.
Yeah.
When we did that one of my favorite reviews, not one of my favorite watching experiences.
God. Everyone kept saying like, oh, well, the 4-hour version's like longer, and so like this is his true vision, and I'm just like, no, the fuck it wasn't. That wasn't his vision. You can't tell me that he is a seasoned director and thought, yeah, I'll get this 4-hour movie into theaters. That'll work. No, the fuck it won't. He was always gonna cut it. He was always gonna take things out. That's insanity to think that you would get that past producers and into theaters.
Yeah, this was definitely like the most like unhinged version of Zack Snyder, which I'm sure you're right. He probably would have actually, in all actuality, if he got to direct the Justice League movie, it would have not been nearly as long. But because I think they saw a want in the audience for some awful fucking reason, enough Snyder Bros were like, we want this full uncut abomination, and they're like, all right, we'll get it. You can have it, the whole fucking thing, and we fucking got it.
Jesus. That movie's wild. Watch our video on that whole movie to learn our thoughts about that. it's also on the YouTube page. But getting back to the actual movie at hand, to kind of wrap up the non-spoiler things about it, this movie is definitely good, and it is worth seeing. And it, even if you're not a Superman fan, but especially if you are one, if you are an actual like comic book Superman fan, or you grew up watching like the Justice League animated series, this is an actual representation of the character you like, and this is very much a love letter to like classic DC type fans. It's highly recommended. And one of my favorite things about this movie that this is not spoilers because it's technically not in the, I'm talking about something that's not in the movie, is it gets you right into it. We don't have to wait for Krypton to fucking blow up again. We don't have to do any of that. He's there. He's Superman. We're into the movie. We don't need
the big long origin story.
I don't need to watch.
A lot of people love.
Yeah, I don't need to. I think it was James Gunn that said this, where he said like, anytime people do a superhero movie now, the three things that will never be on screen again is Krypton blowing up, Batman's parents getting shot, and Uncle Ben dying. No one, or no, actually no, it was actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't Uncle Ben dying. It was Peter getting bitten by a spider. That he said everyone has seen that, and unless they don't make another superhero movie for another 10 years, we never need to see it again.
Is it I feel like a lot of these characters, people generally know what their deal is.
Yeah.
I feel like Batman, Superman especially, you kind of know their origin just out of like the cultural like zeitgeist.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of like the biggest strengths of like, it just gets you right into the movie and just is a really fun time in the theater and just like a really like feel good type movie. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I think on Letterboxd I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And it will probably, in terms of superhero movies, it'll probably be the best superhero movie that comes out this year.
Yeah, I think if I had to assign like a number to it, I would give it like an 8 out of 10.
That's pretty good.
Like I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's like the most special thing to me, but I did have a really good time with it, and I really liked a lot of the characterization in it.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And Seth, for you, any closing thoughts before we start talking about spoilers and going into the plot?
I will say that like just one thing is I really liked the movie on my first watch. I watched it with my girlfriend at a drive-in, and it was a great experience. We both really liked it. Even she, who didn't really seem to be all that much interested for the superhero hijinks stuff, also got pretty invested in it. We really enjoyed that film. But I felt like I really, not saying everybody has to do this, but I felt like I really, really got to appreciate the movie on my second viewing. One of my criticisms was like, just like, maybe the action scenes were not the most exciting in my opinion, except for one, which I'm sure we'll definitely talk about.
Yep.
But upon a second viewing, I actually got to appreciate more of the choreography on play with Superman, the way he fights. And I'll get more into it, but it's like, just the second viewing was so good. And I feel like I get that a lot with Gunn also, is just like little jokes or lines of dialogue that I didn't catch the first time, or something, or like a action scene and the way it's plotted out, or like little bits of foreshadowing throughout the film. I think Gunn is he's just a super fun director, and his talents are very much on display here.
I definitely agree with that. He definitely does comic book movies well. And he is really strong about like finding the essence of a character and like displaying that. And there are definitely like certain characters, not just Superman, that he has so much appreciation for everyone that's on the screen and make sure everyone has exactly the amount of screen and has as much character as they need to. There's no forgotten roles in any of his movies, whether it's the Guardians or this.
Yeah. Like something I think he had a really good balance with too was like kind of loving like this is a comic book movie and still having like you can have your serious and you could have your comic like crazy stuff and have a good balance of it. I think he manages to pull that off like really well.
Yeah.
Cuz like he isn't afraid to be really silly with his stuff, and it doesn't have to be like very quippy or anything, but you get the point.
No, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
With that. All right.
I think we could start talking about the movie because I feel like those are definitely points we're going to
Yes.
be digging into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is the mark in the video for you, the audience, and me, the editor, as this is where we will start getting into spoilers.